Hello everyone, it's Peter. Starting from today, I will start the Spring training. So I give a topic, say Spring Boot. Usually I will say Spring Framework. Spring is a very famous technology, I think introduced in 2003 or 2005. But it has lots of generations, and until now, we built as a Spring Boot. So I will give you a simple introduction of Spring Framework. So what is Spring Framework? Okay, before we have this introduction, let's talk about about Java. We have the first section is basic Java programming. Yeah, in that section, we focus more on the language preference and data structure, algorithms. And this section is to make you practice about Java coding. And in the second section is advanced Java programming. We focus more on the Java OOP concepts, collection API, exception handling, file I/O, multi-threading, design pattern, those things. Uh, they in this section we don't cover a lot of coding skills because you already good enough in the first section. So we focus more on some interview questions and to help you understand the whole as a higher point of view of the Java language. Okay. And now in Java, we know we have class, we have interface, and finally if we want to use them, we have to create object. We have create a lot of objects. So we call them as Java beans. What is Java bean? Java bean, any Java object can be called Java bean. Java bean has two different sets. One kind of Java bean is, maybe I give more example like here. So if I have a class person, inside the person I can define inside person I can define ID, define name, and so on. So this kind of class is called this Java bean is called data object. Sometimes we have some name like VO as a value object, or some DTO, data transfer object. So those objects, the main purpose of those objects are holding the data, holding the data from the front end to back end to in the whole application. So those objects will hold the data, and this is one set of Java beans, and then another set of Java beans is like if I say class my service, my service will have some method, say string get name, or like don't use getter. Let's say build let's say format name with some name. Okay. Or we have some other method like string format phone number, right? So you have phone number. I want you to have build some simple logic to build a new phone number as a different format, something like that. These classes usually they don't have any field. They have some public method, and then you can do some logic in those methods. This is called service bean or Java bean as a service. This is logic bean. So usually this kind of service is immutable, right? Let's record the concept of immutable. Immutable means that when we create an object, its value cannot be changed. But in the logic bean, usually it doesn't have any value. Okay, it only has a method to handle to do some logic of the values. Okay? So it means for these two kind of beans in the whole Java application, we may need to create lots of these kind of beans. But for immutable object, we don't have to create more than one bean. So we usually use the singleton, but we don't have to write a singleton pattern. So in the whole application, we only need one object of this service, right? But for the data, of course, we need a lot of objects. So in one word, in a Java application, we are playing with Java objects, maybe data objects, or maybe the logic object of like Java beans. We play with Java beans. So we need to create lots of Java beans in our application, and then how to manage those Java beans. Then Spring comes to the picture. So now we can come back to the Spring Framework. Spring Framework is simply a bin management framework that takes care of all Java objects in your project. It will take care of Java objects. So it means that when you use Spring Framework, usually you don't have to use new keyword to create a bin. If you want some bin, some Java object, you just ask Spring Framework to give me a bin. That's it. And in this management, it can save lots of memories. It doesn't so like for the logic bins, it doesn't have to create more than one logic bins, so people can share together. So again, for immutable concept, like those logic bins, they don't have any field, so they are immutable, and definitely they are thread safe, right? They don't have shared resource because they don't have any field. So for the immutable object, it's thread safe, and it only needs one object in the whole Java application. So by this sense, we introduced a Spring Framework to manage those Java bins. So Spring Framework, we have Spring 1, Spring 2, now Spring 2.1 or Spring 2.2, then we have higher versions. So gradually it will it evolves to Spring Boot. Now, what is Spring Boot? And in our later projects, we all use Spring Boot. Why we use Spring Boot? Spring Boot actually is also based on the Spring Framework, but it has, by my understanding, it has three advantages. First is the better dependency management. We know Spring has lots of modules. Later on, we will introduce like IOC, AOP, JPA, REST, MVC, and so on. There are lots of different modules. Different modules have different dependencies. This is a library, right? Spring Framework is a library. For those dependencies, you need to use Maven to add lots of dependencies inside the Spring Framework. But if we use the Spring Boot, it summarizes those frameworks into some simple dependencies, just like the Spring Boot starter, right? Just a few of them, not much. That's very good. The second thing is embedded web server. So we will create a web application. Web application needs a web server, like in the industry, usually we use like WebLogic, WebSphere, Apache Tomcat, and so on, or like JBoss. So if you develop a web application in Spring, everything you can use Spring, but you still need to install a web server on your local machine, right? And you need to configure some important information in the web server. So that's a lot of job. So if you did the first class of the environment setup, there are lots of setup, right? So we already simplify a lot. But if you really want to develop a Spring application, and the dependency management is a big headache, and the Spring Boot takes care of dependency and takes care of web server. Web server is another headache, and Spring Boot takes care of that. So under the structure of Spring Boot, you don't have to install any web server. It has an embedded server. If you want to start your application, you simply run a hello world. That's some class with main. That's it. And then it will automatically start server based on your configuration everywhere. And then next is make the Spring application atomic and easy to deploy as a Docker image. Docker image is a different big topic we will talk about later. And so this Spring application, like REST API or other applications, it will work as a unit, as an atom. So in the current industry, we have a concept of microservice. Right? Microservice, each service is self-independent, and then they can interact with each other. So if you make a Spring application as a boot application, then it becomes a unit. So I did some projects to do the migration from Spring Framework to Spring Boot. We call a name called Bootify. There's a new word called Bootify. Bootify Spring application, which means that in a legacy system, we use a Spring Framework to make a web application, and we have to install like a WebLogic server or WebSphere server or Tomcat server, and after that, we want to migrate to Spring Boot. So the code logic is the same, but we use different configurations, and it becomes a Spring Boot application And in this application, we can totally retire all those servers. So this procedure is called bootify. So if you want to, if you touch some project, some requirement is to bootify the legacy Spring framework, Spring application to a Spring Boot application. That's a very popular requirement in lots of industry. This is about Spring Boot. So in our application, I will focus on the Spring Boot. I won't go cover the legacy Spring framework. But remember, Spring Boot actually is Spring framework. It's also Spring framework, but it is better. Now, next I cover some important modules in Spring framework. The first is IOC. IOC is the core of Spring Boot. It's an inversion of control. The full name is inversion of control, or in other words, it's called dependency injection. That is, Spring will automatically create a bin, create a Java object for us, and all the fields will be dependency injected. It will be injected. It's fundamental of Spring. It applies a singleton pattern, factory pattern, or some other patterns. So factory pattern is like the whole Spring bin factory is like a factory. So if you want any object, you just ask this factory to give you an object. Okay. And AOP, AOP is aspect-oriented programming. It's an injection of functions. It's an injection of functions. Now we will focus more on IOC and give a brief introduction of AOP and bring down AOP. We in my experience and in the real industry, we use AOP a lot, but we don't explicitly use AOP. We will apply some APIs, some libraries. Those libraries already have AOP built in, so you don't have to worry about those explicit AOP, just implicit AOP. If you introduce some, like for example, like I will talk about Resilience4j. It is using AOP, but in the whole framework, if you use it, you even didn't feel that an AOP exists, but you must have AOP dependency inside. Now JPA is Java Persistent API, so it is the module to connect with database. Database including the traditional relational database like Oracle, SQL, SQL Server, and so on, like DB2. And JPA also includes some other DAO package connecting with other database, like if you want to connect with MongoDB or DynamoDB, so some NoSQL database, it's fine. So it's just a module to help you to have some APIs to talk to or communicate with database. And the REST is very, very important. It's a Spring module to take care of the web application with REST API. So REST is a big topic we will cover later in our class. And we can have Spring REST, we can have GSA REST. So MVC, the full name is Model View and Controller. It's a legacy Spring module. So why we say legacy? Maybe you know lots of companies, they still use MVC. But in the current modern industry, we mainly, for the UI part, they focus on the single page application. Single page application. It means that if you want to change the page or make the page dynamic, they just make a REST service call, like the REST service call, and get data. The front end and the back end, actually, they only need to communicate with data, right? With some contract. So you have input, and the service gives you output. Then, based on the output, you change your page. Right? So you don't have to move from one page to the other page. So MVC pattern is that I have page one, the page one send a request, and then MVC in the Spring will handle the request and forward you to another page. That's the basic idea of MVC. But in current industry, if you apply like AngularJS on the front end, it's basically a single page application. You don't have to move from one page to the other. So in our class, I won't cover MVC anymore. If you want it, I can give you some link to help you understand. And Spring Security. Spring Security is an authentication and authorization module. You can use your username password, or you may or may not have access to some components. But there's a OAuth framework in front of the Spring Security. So we also want to cover Spring Security. This is a different module. So in my experience, if I want to develop some Spring application, Spring Boot application, we even don't have to think about the Spring Security. Even our final link is HTTPS, and if you want to log in, if you want to access the page, you have to log in with username, password. But that's a different module and a different team. There's a security team to take care of all the security issues. So we don't we throw this headache to some team else. So as I said, so I give you a brief introduction of Spring Framework modules, but I won't cover MVC and I won't cover security. But if you want to do that, it's not difficult. You just add the corresponding dependencies. There's a lot of technical articles and for you to walk through. Now, next, let's talk about IOC. To understand IOC, I will start to build our project and go through it step by step. Now, let's do this one. So a new Maven project. So I always use the like Maven quick start project and give name. So this group ID doesn't matter. So I use Spring Basic. Let's use Spring Basic. So this one just Spring. Okay. Finish. Okay. Now first, we need to modify the POM. Now this one I change the compiler to 1.8. Okay. For this POM, let me make a better format. Okay. Now snapshot I can change to 1.0.0. In this property, this is dependency. Okay, I will go to let's say I give you a Bebop-common project, and I have some dependency in this one. Let's do this. Group ID, and we can have a description. Let's add a description here. Demo of Spring Basic, including IOC and AOP in this demo. Now, so for properties, I only need the first two. Now for Spring part, I just use Spring Starter. That's the basic one. I don't need others. This is for Spring Boot no web. So now we don't have any web application. I just say Spring Boot here. And Starter is the basic one. If you want to add some other modules, like if you want dash AOP with this one, or dash JPA, or dash anything, for example, like dash AOP, it will include the starter. So it's more, starter is the standard one. And if you have dash AOP, is the more advanced one, but it will, the starter will be a subset of the starter dash AOP. And now we don't have AOP, so just with starter. And then Spring Boot Web, so only these things. Then test. So test, we need that. We need a test. So because we use in the Spring, we need to have a unit test. Okay. And others, we don't need that. And JUnit 5, that's good. JUnit 5, we need that. The three of them. This is JUnit 5. And YAML, I need to add it. I will talk about later with this YAML dependency. And then I just pick up something I need, and the plugins. Okay, use this plugin. Let's say let's do the build part now. You can see plugins. Now we need the first plugin. Here we have configuration of the final name. That is for build purpose. If we want to build a jar file, and then we can have a final name, that's fine. So you may or may not have it. And this is repackaged. So this is for build purpose, because currently we don't build anything. In the future, after we have web application, we need this part as a build. But currently we simply write this. And I think that's all for our dependency. Okay, so you can see record. Let's see, packaging. Let's go to the top level. There's a group ID. There's no packaging. Group ID, this one. Name, description. Group ID, name, description. Okay. Oh, I missed the Spring, the parent part. There's a parent, which is Spring Boot. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay, that's parent part. Name. Okay. Okay. Now it works. So finally, you will see there's a red cross here. So you can right click, say Maven, update project, and the fourth update of snapshot. Okay. So it will be gone. So this is the way to use Spring Boot. So you need to have a parent POM, which we import from Spring Boot with this version. And now I think there could be a 2.3 version. That's fine. So usually we don't go to the latest version. I will use a stable version. If you want to go to the latest version, there's some small change. And those small changes will be a big headache. I will use a stable version for my training. Okay, this is all the POM. Okay, that's good. Now let's start to make our code. So this package, I don't need it. This package, I don't need it. Okay. Now, new package, let's say com.spring.ioc, spring.ioc. Okay, that's for IOC part. For the test, I also create the same package. And I need another package, very important, spring.configure. We always need this config package. I will talk about it later. Now in the IOC, let me create a class, say person. So this is a normal Java class, int_id, string name. Okay. Now I use get and setters. Okay, now in config, I can use a class called bin config. So we have annotation. So in Spring, in all the three modules, we focus on the is annotation driven. In the very legacy system, we may use the XML file to configure bins, but now we don't use it anymore. We all use annotation driven. The first annotation is configuration is an annotation, which means this is a configuration class. Yeah. Now I use annotation called bin. Bin, I get a person. I just create a person. Person.set ID. Person.set name. Now I just return person. Oh, sorry. Sometimes it's too fast. Return person. Okay. I just make a very simple one. Now I can make a test now. Okay. So in this example, I just create a very simple Java class person with ID and name. And then I have bin configuration. This configuration has a person here, and this annotation called bin. So configuration class always has two annotations, very important. One is the configuration annotation, which means this is a configuration class. It's not a normal Java bin. The second one is at bin. Means that this is a Java bin. This is Java bin. We will learn lots of other annotations we will talk about later. Okay, but just I give you a simple example. Now a new class IOC test. IOC test. Okay. So in this test we have called Spring Boot test. So all the tests under Spring Boot, there's an annotation called the Spring Boot test. We will see what happens with this Spring Boot test annotation. Now, inside we can import the classes equals to bin config class. We will import this bin class. If you don't have this, there's another annotation called import. Annotation import. Say bin config class. That's another way. So I just give you another input. If you don't write classes here, you can use import to import this class. You can also write classes here. I think it's maybe not classes. Just you import this this class. So you can select one. Now I don't use import. I just say classes inside Spring Boot. They are the same. If you don't have this one, if you don't have this one, you can use import. So now I have this one. In the future, I will use import. So don't worry about that. I just delete the code. Use import. Now test. What? Test person. Right? Now I want to create object of person, but I don't need to use new here because I already configured the person inside the bin config. So in the test, I can use Autowired person. So I just Autowired the person. Autowired means automatically find any bins with this person, with the type person inside my bin factory. The bin configuration actually is already create a bin factory automatically for you. So inside the bin configuration, it already create a bin inside, a person bin inside, and Autowired is automatically wire a bin from the bin factory. This is also an annotation. Now I can say assert install assert equals ID is 100, and I just say this person dot get ID. Okay. So I make things easy. I just add static here. Now I can assert equals directly. Now assert equals 100. No, Alice person dot get name. Okay. Now we finish a simple test. Okay, run unit test. So you can see in this unit test, it has lots of things here. Maybe it makes you scared, but don't scare about that. It will, if you have Spring Boot test, it will have this print out the Spring things here. This is a Spring, and then this is the real test. It has the previous part will have lots of configurations or detection there. You can skip that part, and then you start in the LC test. This is my PC name, and with this ID automatically generated. No active profile yet. So about the profile, it's a different story. We will talk about later. And fall back to the default profile and started the IOC test in this second. I don't have any printout, so I just keep here. No. This is person. Let's see. This is a simple basic bin configuration injection. Very basic. Now let's move on. Now, if the person is very complicated, suppose I have a new class address. A person may have address. Okay. In the address, I have string street, string city, string state. Maybe there's a zip. Okay. That's fine. I just skip zip. Yeah. I create a certain get and setters. This is address. Now, then in the bin configuration, I can have another bin called address. The method name doesn't matter. You can use get name or set name or return name or build name, anything. I just use address. Right? So address. Okay. Set street. Let's use a very normal C100 main street. Address. Set city. Say NYC. NYC is New York City. Set state. Is NY. Now I return address. Okay. Now next I add this address into the person, so I can add one more field, say address. So this is a complex Java bin. So a Java bin contains another Java bin. Now if you have get and setters for this address. Okay. Now in the bin configuration, how do I make this person have this address? So there are two ways. One way is like this. I just say person dot set address with the address method, right? Address method. That's one way. Another way is I put address as a parameter. So then I set this address as a parameter. So in this way, you may be curious how to transfer this address object inside the person, and you don't have to worry about that part. So in the Spring Bin factory, it will automatically search the possible address bins inside this bin factory and pass as a parameter in this address. So I just use this way. This is a simple way, and you don't have to worry about the those address method name. Okay. This way, the good thing is that there could be multiple configuration files, not only bin configure, maybe bin configure 2 or bin configure 3, right? So address may be defined in some other bin configuration files. So, but you still can get it. You don't have to worry about that part. This address definition does not have to be in the same the bin configuration as the person, and they may be in a different configuration files, but you can still use this address to get it. Now, next I just get address equal to person dot get address. No. Main street address dot get street. get city, get state. Okay. Now here I didn't auto-wire the address. I just use get to get this address. If I want to auto-wire address, that's fine. So then it's working. And for example, if you want to auto-wire private address, but this is the same name. So I want to make it different. This is I just use another name, shared address. Just use shared address. I will prove that shared address and this address actually they are the same address. That's the same. Is it? This is exactly the reference is the same. It's not the shallow copy. It's the same address. So shared address and address is the same. See. So from this, it's the same. So I think you should understand that in the bin configuration, each bin is uniquely, it's a singleton. Okay, I just create one object of person and one object of address. Okay? I won't get the second one. So every bin is unique. Every bin is a singleton. But there's a requirement say, okay, what if I want to create a second person, a different person? What can I do? For example, I just add another bin, public person, let's say person 2. So in this person 2, I run the same thing, but I change the name, say the person 2 is Bob. Then the ID is 200, but the address is the same, but now I can use this way. I just try to different ways to inject this address in this person, right? One way is use as a parameter, I can get it, and second is I call the function method. If I call the function method, if I call the method name, so the condition is that this method has to be in the same bin, otherwise it cannot be accessed, right? It cannot be accessed. So if it's in the same bin configuration, I can call the method. But if this address method is in a different bin configuration, then I have to use this way to inject it. If you use this way, the system will be very confused. So in this IOS test, use this auto while, and this person is the person or person 2, because both of them are persons. So if I run it, there will be a mistake, an exception. No. Now, okay. There's no exception. The reason is still this Alice. The reason is there's a bin name. This bin name is called person, and the second bin name is called person 2. It's called person 2. If I use as a person 2, then that's a problem. Then this will be Bob. See, that's person 2. This is Bob. Okay. So now we can understand auto while. The priority of auto while is auto while will first auto while by type. They will find the person. But if there are two persons, then they will auto while by name. They auto while by name. So the method name. The method name is the variable name. Okay, person or person 2. But what if I use like get person? Get person 1. Get person 2. If I use this method, then there's trouble, right? Because now auto while does not know which one should be wild. But person 2 doesn't match any name of the method, and the person type has 2 different types. If I run this one, so there's a say, okay, unsatisfied field dependency. The area bin name with this one is this person 2. Okay, you can see the and the one good thing in Spring Framework is the error message is very clear. Okay? No qualified bin of this person variable expected. Single match bin but found 2. Get person 1 get person 2. See, this is the error message. So how to do that? Let's come back to this person, this bin configuration. We have get person 1, we have get person 2. Now, what we do is that we can have 2 persons. We auto-wire 2 persons. Person 2. Now, let's give a name. I can add a qualifier with give a name person 1. Sorry, not here qualifier. Sorry. In the bin, I give a name equals to person 1. Here I give a name called person 2. So if you don't give the name, then the bin name is the method name. But I can give a name. If I give a name, I come back here, and then person 1 and person 2 will be clear. Okay, then this is 100. Person 2 is 200. Get name, and then I do the same thing for person 1. So this one I get address 1 is equal to person 1 dot get address. Okay, then this is address 2. Person 2 get address. Then this I use address 1, and I also clarify as the same address 1 and address 2. Now, if I give the name, then I use the same variable name. That's fine. I can do this one. So it will identify which is person. But what if I don't use the same name as the bin name? So if, for example, this is just a person. Okay. I just use person and person 2. When I define something, I may not know what the bin configuration. I just want the person, so I can use another very important annotation called qualifier. Qualifier, I just add person 1. The qualifier will match the person name, the bin name. So here I use qualifier person 2. Then, so with qualifier, the variable name doesn't matter. You can use any name, P1, P2, any name, but the qualifier already matches the corresponding bin configuration. So then I just run it. Yeah, and here we prove address is singleton, address 1, address 2, and shared address, they are all the same. And the person is Alice, person 2 is Bob, right? With different ID, different name. Okay. So we introduced the qualifier. Qualifier is a very, very important annotation in industries, and it's very likely to be asked in the interview. So that is, if I define multiple Java bins in the bin configuration, and how to identify them when I use one of them, I can use qualifier to match the name of the bin name. So each bin, you can define a name. But if you don't define a name, that's fine. Oh, this one, here add public to make it look good. If you don't give a name, the method name is the bin name. If you give a name, so in the bin you have name equal to something, then it's your customized name here. Okay. Now, then we covered about the qualifier to identify different objects with the same type. Now, okay, I think that's all for the first class. Next class we will talk about more about IOC and then move to AOP and some other topics about like active profiles. Okay, let's stop here. Thank you.